Good morning, class. Please stand for an opening prayer to be led by Miss Albotra. Before you take your seats, kindly arrange your chairs and pick up some trash under your chairs. Okay, you may take your seats. Miss Secretary, please check the attendance. Class, how are you today? Good to hear that. Before we delve into our discussion this morning, let's have a recapitulation of what was being discussed on our previous meeting. Okay, Mr. Espanso, can you share with us your idea? Thank you, Mr. Espanso. Yes, we talked about 18th century, Restoration, and Puritan period. This morning, we will tackle about Neoclassical period. Neoclassical period is from year 1660 to 1790. It is also known as the Age of Reason or the Enlightenment, was a significant era in Western literature and thought. The name itself, neoclassical, combines neo, which means new, with classical, reflecting its focus on reviving and reinterpreting the principles of classical Greek and Roman art and literature. It is an era of reason and logic. The neoclassical period championed reason and logic as the primary means of understanding the world. This contrasted sharply with the preceding era's emphasis on religious faith and emotion. Literature of the age is concerned with nature, human nature, supremacy of reason. So, neoclassical literature analyzes human nature and the natural world through reason and logic, not emotion or faith. So, this supremacy of reason led to clear, structured writing focused on observation and rational thought. Unity in the works of all writes. So, it means that writers of the neoclassical period aim for unity and universality in their works. They strive for a sense of balance and harmony in their writing. The age is known as Classical Age. The neoclassical period is also called the classical age because it revived and emulated the styles and principles of ancient Greek and Roman art and literature. The period is marked by the rise of Buddhism, intellectual backlash against earlier Puritanism, and Americans' revolution against England. So it means that the neoclassical period witnessed the rise of Buddhism. Buddhism is a rejection of Puritanism's strict religious views, and the American Revolution, both reflecting the era's emphasis on reason and individual liberty. Neoclassical literature is characterized by order, accuracy, and structure. It means that neoclassical literature is known for its formal structure, precise language, and adherence to established literary rules and conventions. Some popular types of literature included parody, essays, satire, letters, fables, melodrama, and rhyming couplets. The neoclassical period composed of 3 stages: the Restoration period, the Golden Age, and the Age of Johnson. So we will talk first the Restoration period. So it's from 1660 to 1700s. So this period marks the British King's restoration to the throne after a long period of Puritan domination in England. Its symptoms include the dominance of French and classical influences on poetry and drama. Restoration literature continued to appeal to heroic ideals of love and honor, particularly on stage, in heroic tragedy. Some of the famous writers during this period are John Dryden and John Milton. So, John Dryden, he was the most influential writers of the Restoration. Therefore, he wrote in every form important to the period, such as occasional verse, comedy, tragedy, heroic plays, odes, satires, translation of classical works, and he produced influential critical essays concerning how one ought to write these forms. His famous composition is All for Love. So it's a 1677 heroic drama, widely considered his most famous and frequently performed play. It's a tragic reimagining of Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, focusing on the final hours of their doomed love affair. The second famous writer of this period is John Milton. The Restoration prose style grew more like witty, urbane conversation and less like the intricate rhetorical style of previous writers like John Milton and John Donne. So when we say intricate, it means highly detailed and complex, often requiring careful attention to understand or appreciate. And when we say rhetorical style, it refers to strategies or patterns of communication used to organize, develop, and deliver ideas effectively in writing or speech. His famous composition is On His Blindness. It's also known as When I Consider How My Life Is Spent. It's a sonnet written after he lost his sight in his middle age. It explores themes of faith, service, and the meaning of suffering. So we're done with the first stage, which is the Restoration period. So the second one is the Augustan age from 1700s to 1750. It is called Augustan because King George I wanted people to think he was like Augustus Caesar. This period is marked by the imitation of Virgil and Horace's literature in English letters. So, it's named after Emperor Augustus of Rome. This era drew parallels between the stability and cultural flourishing of Augustan Rome and the reign of King George I, who sought to associate his rule with classical ideals of order and enlightenment. Some of the famous writers of Augustan age are Alexander Pope and Jonathan Swift. So, Alexander Pope was the most significant figure during the Augustan period. His witty couplets were often quoted and used as axioms. Pope took issue with other authors about what should be considered the proper subjects and nature of poetic expression. So, his famous composition is The Rape of the Lock. It's a mock heroic poem satirizing high society in early 18th century England. It's based on a real incident, the cutting of a lock of hair from Arabella Fermor by Robert Peter, which caused a rift between their families. The second famous writer of this period is Jonathan Swift. Swift targets the empiricist who insist on individual unyielding reason over morality and societal values. His famous composition is Gulliver's Travel. It's a satirical novel that mocks human nature and the traveler's tales literary genre. It follows the fantastical voyages of Lemuel Gulliver, a ship surgeon who encounters strange and absurd societies.
Now, let's proceed to the third or the last stage, which is the Age of Johnson. It is from 1750 to 1790. Of course, the Age of Johnson was part of the Neoclassical Period, a time when literature focused on reason, logic, and human nature. This period was also known as Classical Age, right? Okay. And it was influenced by the Enlightenment. So writers in this era or age aim for unity and structure in their works. This age was a transition between Neoclassicism and the upcoming Romantic era. While literature still followed rules in the structures, emotions and creativity started to take more importance. It prepared the way for the more expressive and free-spirited writing of the Romantic period. Now, let's talk about the famous writers in this age and their compositions. First, we have Edward Gibbon. He was the first English historian to write in a literary style. His most famous book is The Decline and the Fall of the Roman Empire. It is known for its elegant and refined writing, and it is considered a masterpiece of classical prose. So this book, The Decline and the Fall of the Roman Empire by Edward, explains how and why the Roman Empire weakened and eventually collapsed. It highlights the political, military, and social reason for its fall, using a detailed research and elegant writing. Next, we have Samuel Johnson. He was a leading writer of his time. His writing was often long and complex, but he could also write simply when he wanted to. So, moody ang pag-write, no? Yung mga writings. So, his famous work is Lives of the Poets. It is a collection of biographies of poets. So, Lives of the Poets by Samuel Johnson is a collection of biographies of famous poets. Each shares their life stories, achievements, and opinions on their works in a thoughtful and detailed way. So, nasabtan ra ang Age of Johnson. Okay, let's take a look on this famous poem written by John Milton. And I want you to read it and tell me what type of poem is it. Am I understood? Okay. John Milton's poem entitled On His Blindness is about his struggle with losing his eyesight and his fear that he can no longer use his talents to serve God. So it begins when he says that he has already lost his light or his vision or iyang pananaw before reaching the middle of his life. He worries that the talent of God given to him, likely his ability to write, is now useless because he can no longer see. He feels responsible for using his gift and fears that God might be displeased if he doesn't. So he wonders, does God expect people to work even when they have lost their abilities? But then, patience answers him. It reminds him that God doesn't need human efforts or talents. Instead, what matters most is faith and willingness to accept his plan. God is like a great king who has many servants. Some are active, traveling, and working, while others are simply wait for his command. And those who patiently trust in him are also serving him, even if they do nothing but started and wait. In simple terms, the poem teaches us that even if we face hardship or limitation, we can still serve God through faith, patience, and trust in His plan.